Hi everybody, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, or Rumble. Do they call it channel or account on Rumble? Well, whatever they call it on Rumble, welcome to it. Whether you are watching on YouTube or on Rumble, welcome to my video. In this video, I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the recent video of I think Dominique Alexander, the guy who's representing Karmello Anthony's family. Yeah, the spokesman for that family. Yeah, so Dominique Alexander recently made a video trying to justify why he kicked out Austin Metcalf's dad from that press conference. And stuff that he said did not even make sense. He's talking about, oh, I don't care what you think about me. And then he keeps bringing up his past. Oh, I'm not hiding it. I never did that. And, I never heard that. Blah, blah. Yeah, you can go look at it, blah, 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 blah. And then he's talking about his testimony. It goes by the title, Minister. So he's over there talking about, yeah, he has a past, but he also never admits to any wrongdoing. He never says, yeah, I never heard him say, not one time in that video, that yeah, he has a past, he should never have done that, he was wrong. None of that stuff. Okay? None of that stuff. So he's talking about how people bringing up his past and saying that, well, I don't care. That wasn't a secret anyways. That's pretty much what he was saying. He didn't use those exact words, but that's pretty much what he was saying. And then he tries to talk about his testimony. Who is this guy? Who does this guy think he's fooling? Is this guy claiming to be a Christian or something? Because he's not showing any fruit. That's the nicest way that I could put it. That guy, he's not showing any fruit that he is a Christian. He's not showing any outward evidence of being a Christian. He's not acting like a Christian. And yet he's talking about his testimony about something he's been through. Now, that's something else. If he was truly a Christian, wouldn't he not only use his past and take accountability for that? Wouldn't he take ownership of that and admit to wrongdoing and admit that he has a past, he done things he should never have done, but he has since found Jesus and is now a different person? That's what a real testimony would look like. If that testimony is him claiming to be a Christian. And then he goes by the title Minister as well. That is also weird. Because, like I said, he's not acting anything like a Christian should act. Okay? He's not acting anything like that. Nothing like that. And then he tries to, and then And then, when he's trying to justify why he kicked out Jeff Metcalf, he mentions a couple of things. He mentions that he didn't know who he was. Didn't know he was there. His family, the Karmello Anthony family, didn't know that he was there, and they didn't know he was going to attend. And then he said that he kicked him out because he for the safety of the Karmello Anthony family. Because he was to say, well, what if he had a gun on him? First of all, if you was not aware of who he was, and neither was the Karmello Anthony family, if Jeff Metcalf was that kind of person, then it seems to me like he would have already done it. He would have already pulled the gun out and tried something. Okay? But you over there kicking him out, not even asking him what he wants. You're assuming that he's there for evil intent. He's going to try something. While you're saying, well, I'm not accusing him of nothing. Yeah, you are. You kicked him out because of what he might have done. And you're not even asking what he's doing there. Not even asking security to keep an eye on him. To check him. Make sure you don't have no weapons on him. Plus, he has his arm in a cast. Okay, so the fact that the Karmello Anthony family did not know that he was there either, and he didn't know, that says a lot about Jeff Metcalf's character. Because I would imagine that Jeff Metcalf knew who they were. In fact, it probably would have been obvious. Just think about something. He didn't know. Just think about something. The Karmello Anthony family, they did not know that Jeff was there, that he was going to come. Dominique Alexander didn't know that he was going to be there, whether he was there or what he looked like. Now, it seemed to me like if Jeff Metcalf was there to start trouble, he would have got in there and got in their face and caused a scene, possibly yelling at them. Okay, so the way that Dominique Alexander explains, he tries to justify kicking out Austin Metcalf's dad, Jeff. He's ironically showing forth, if there's any truth in that story, that this actually shows forth what the good character of Jeff Metcalf. Because he's not that. He's clearly not that type of person. Okay. If he wanted to shoot up to somebody and try to shoot the Karmello Anthony family, seems like he would have already tried it. If he was there to create trouble, he would have already tried it. Okay, but Jeff is not that type of person. Okay, he's over there trying to create unity, and in fact, there's some even before that if he was given the opportunity, he was seeking to pray for that family. Pray with them. He's trying to bring unity, and then he gets kicked out and treated like garbage. He's showing forth an abundance of patience and how this the Karmello Anthony film is acting. He's showing forth, a biblical principle. It's actually was it because he's a Christian man. I talked about that in my previous videos, or one of my previous videos. He is a Christian man. And the way that he's acting is demonstrating biblical principle. The Bible talks about forgiveness, turning the other cheek, loving your enemy, praying for your enemy. It talks about unity. Okay, Jeff Metcalf is trying to demonstrate the Bible. He's trying to live by those scriptures. Because that's what he's following. That's what he's doing. His actions is demonstrating that he's trying to follow those scriptures. Okay? Anyone else in that same situation would have probably showed up there and caused a scene. Okay? If Jeff Metcalf wanted to cause trouble, I guarantee you he would have. In fact, he could have certainly got to just walk up to Karmello Anthony's parents and started yelling at them. If he was that kind of person. But he's showing restraint by just standing there and watching, seeking unity. That right there is showing restraint. And he is a Christian man, and this is actually following biblical principle. That's what he's doing. Okay? And as I mentioned in a previous video, this is not a sign of weakness. This is not a sign of him caving to the mob or caving to political correctness. This is a sign of him following biblical principle, trying to be obedient to the Bible. And in case somebody brings it up, while he did use the F word when he was telling off Jake Lang, he's also going through a lot. Okay? I do not believe that he regularly uses the F word or any kind of profanity, because that is not very becoming for a Christian man, especially given the fruits that we are seeing that demonstrated with his actions. So I believe that right there is something that sort of slipped out because of what he's dealing with, and his use of that language does not necessarily prove that he's a false Christian or anything like that. Perhaps it's not part of his normal language, but when he uses it, it comes flying out of his mouth whenever he gets mad. And given the stuff that he's been going through lately, especially with Jake Lang, oh boy, that would test anybody's patience. Almost anybody would lose it. Stuff that he said, you don't say that to a grieving father. That is insane. And even then, I believe that he was still showing restraint. Okay? I believe that even then he was showing restraint as well. Okay? So, Jeff Metcalf seems to be a religious man. His actions demonstrates biblical principles: forgiveness, turning the other cheek, loving your neighbor, loving your enemy. What else? Unity. It's demonstrating biblical principle. Okay? That right there is fruit. Okay? And given what he's dealing with, what he's been dealing with, especially for a couple of weeks at that point, because I think it had only been maybe about 2 or 3 weeks by the time Jake Lang held that rally. Given what he's been going through, all the harassment he's been facing, and all that stuff, I think it's only natural for him to have some of that anger stored up and for the F word to come flying out of his mouth. Especially if he was prone to using that kind of language prior to getting saved. Like maybe profanity became like a stronghold before he got saved, and now that he's saved, there's some of it still lingering on when he gets mad. So that right there is me giving him the benefit of the doubt, and given what he is dealing with, I mean, it's understandable why he would be mad. But I mean, anybody would lose, especially with that Jake Lang situation, the stuff that he's saying, and anybody would lose it. Okay? So, yeah. But that was a heat of the moment. So his use of the F word, while technically not biblical and not very becoming of a Christian, was also sort of understandable given what he's been going through. But you also see his actions as well, especially at that press conference where he was kicked out. He was seeking an opportunity for unity, to pray with the Karmello Anthony family. His forgiveness, like that he's forgiven them, he's forgiven Karmello, but at the same time he wants justice. He's demonstrating, what the Bible says. Like I said, he's showing forth fruit with those actions. That's actually what he's doing, showing forth biblical fruits. Okay? And that's what you have to look at when it comes to whether or not he's actually sick. You have to look at the fruit, and this fruit does demonstrate Christ-like behavior for the most part. And his use of the F word while telling off Jake Long is technically, that right there, like that anger is understandable, probably came flying out of his mouth in the heat of the moment. That's more of I'm going to call that like a flaw or a moment of weakness, not to be confused with spiritual fruit, which we see demonstrated through most of his interviews, through his attending the Karmello Anthony press conference, seeking to pray with them, seeking unity. That's what we see there. All that is mostly, so for the most part, we're seeing Christ-like behavior for the most part out of Jeff. He's trying to handle this as Christ-like as possible, and here Dominique Alexander is acting like he came there to harm them, instead of justify kicking them out. He's trying to comment, Dominique Alexander is trying to justify kicking him out of that press conference. Well, I did it for the safety of the Anthony family. Because I don't know if Metcalf had a gun or what. That is a bunch of baloney. Especially if you didn't know who he was. And he was probably already there for a few minutes. He was just over there standing there. The fact that he didn't go over there and try to instigate something. The fact that he didn't go over there and start yelling at the Anthony family. It actually says a lot about his character. And the fact that he went there seeking unity, seeking to pray with the Anthony family, and the fact that he forgave them and has turned the other cheek, he's seeking unity. I mean, he's following what the Bible says. He's following the teachings of Jesus. And he got kicked out of that rally and that press conference, and Dominique Alexander is trying to justify that, whilst claiming to be a religious man himself, well, implying, and he didn't actually use those words, claimed to be a minister, not of the gospel, and then he tried to make it my testimony.